If video games had shadows, these would be World of Warcraft's.
His entire React channel must be purged. Oh, what the fuck?
Now this is a place they never let you find. For miles around, there is nothing but flat grass and faraway features cutting jaggedly into the night skyline. There are 3 distant lands visible: the tall ranges to the northeast and northwest, and the plateau to the southeast. Let's go to the plateau first. This place is called the Verdant Fields, and upon arrival, you see nothing but gentle slopes covered in flowers.
It's creepy. Also, I want to point something out. When you say verdant, that word means vibrant, alive, green as well. Verdant, green with grass or other rich vegetation. I want to let you guys know, Mardoom, which is the place where they imprisoned all the demons, was also called the Verdant Star. They don't have it written on here, I don't think. Wow, they actually, no, people aren't even aware of this. So that's great. So the wiki itself doesn't even have that listed. So in Chronicle, when you read about the place where Sargeras had imprisoned the demons, it was called Mardoom, Plain of Banishment, and it shone brightly through the cosmos as a burning verdant star. Which is kind of an insane thing to say, considering that verdant means green and typically overrun with life. I also want to point out that Argus is called the Emerald Star and has some related lore talking about how, as he's being tortured by the Burning Legion, the only solace that he has from such torment lies within his dream. However, it appears that similar to the Argus in Greek mythology, this Argus is not able to sleep. It seems as though he's being kept awake. And I just think it's interesting that there's a connection in Verdant Star, Emerald Star, Argus. There's mention of his dream. I think that's not a coincidence. So the fact that this is called the Verdant Plains or whatever, anytime that word comes up, I like to highlight the fact that it does mean lush and green. And the fact that they called Mardoom a burning verdant star is pretty interesting. I think Argus was meant to be more balanced between life and death, but was pushed towards death, perhaps.
And the distant silhouettes of striking growths sticking upwards. Closer up, you can see that these growths are giant flowers of several beautiful varieties. The largest ones aren't unlike trees. There's this one that's doing something to itself. This one's even animated and seems to fire out its own magical pollen.
And that magical pollen.
At the back of this section, we can see where a developer once painted a legend, which is neat. And behind it, the fields stretch even further for miles and miles. An overhead view also shows that these fields were made up of lots of different kinds of natural spiral patterns. It's a shame we never saw them in Azeroth.
We did, though. I mean, we did. They're in the fields of Onoran.
To the northeast are titanic canyons of green. Over on this side is a man, and over on this side is this big guy who...
Huh. They've been putting these big Jarden statues in forever. They have these dream things along them. It's interesting. This honestly looks just like a Jarden, in my opinion. It even has, like, the tattoos on it. And these are in the Emerald Dream, too. And in the Emerald Dream, there's, like, 4 or 5 of them, and there are trees, like, strangling them. There's one where it's, like, coming out of its mouth. It's coming out of its fucking eye and shit. It's pretty twisted. But these are also in the Emerald Dream, and I think they look like Jarden. When you see the Jarden that are in the game, like, as we know them, I think it's pretty interesting because they have, like, orange fiery tattoos.
Who is next to some of these, whatever they are.
Oh, whoa, they have some of these Dreamcatcher things. Yeah, so in the Emerald Nightmare raid, there's one of these kind of outside of the bounds of the raid. And this certainly appears to be some type of, like, ecliptic Dreamcatcher of some kind. It also has pretty interesting runes on it that I think are relevant. I think all the runes really are relevant. It does have a sun rune on it right there, or some kind of sun hieroglyph. There's also a moon and sun, so I really do think that this maybe is depicting some kind of eclipse. There is a pretty deep connection between Anshe and Musha, as far as we are aware. So sun and moon appearing in um, glyphs or pictographs or anything like that on dream-related stuff, I think is pretty fascinating. Some of these could also be representative of beings, of animals. They could be another spin on a runic language. This rune right here, for instance, is kind of hard to see, but it honestly does look extremely similar to some other runes that we've seen, things actually similar to domination. But I think that there are rune languages and glyph pictographic languages that are mixed together in World of Warcraft. So sometimes it's not as simple as just like looking at A and calling it A. It's looking at A, comparing it to B, realizing that A and B are combined, and it's actually a new result, C, and we're like, wait a second, this is a whole new thing. So I think that's pretty cool. And it's interesting that they were putting these similar types of structures. It's also seemingly made out of a strange material. I can't be the only one who looks at this structurally and kind of thinks, I almost think like Ice Crown Citadel, or like almost like, I don't know, like almost like a, yeah, it looks like Maw metal, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And it's kind of interesting. It's called these are like dream catchers, right? Maybe we're kind of misinterpreting what they really are. Maybe these are literal catchers. They literally trap stuff in it or something. Pretty interesting to think about the possibility of. Be cool if these things could transmit energy. If they could siphon energy to a different place. Could you siphon energy out of the dream with these things? Dream energy? And like use it or send it somewhere else? Just kind of wondering, like, could this be used as like as like a little siphon for energy? I could come up with an interesting way that could work. It does look like Maw stuff. I could tie that to the Primus and the Burning Legion, to be honest, but that's more like fan fiction. All I'm thinking of is binding things into the dream, which is kind of cool. I think it's scary. Freya bound the wild gods to the Emerald Dream atop Mount Hyjal. At least that's what they claim. I don't know. I don't like the idea of being bound to a place that's eternally unchanging and makes you go insane.
And finally, to the northwest is the Emerald Forest, the place that seems to have gotten the furthest in development before the abandonment of this entire instance. First,
this place was supposed to be
is a
fucking
low area
huge.
around the lake that's very flat and featureless. But there is a waterfall, and if you were to follow the water flow upwards, you'd get to a river amongst a forest, and the trees here are beautiful. These huge green-blue trees are rooted in the air, their roots like legs sticking out of the ground.
Okay, so this to me looks like a place where ordering is happening. I'm assuming that there's, if it were modern day WoW, these trees would probably have some kind of order in that water that's dripping off of them, and that would be cascading probably down into this river and being spread throughout the rest of this area. And if you pay attention in the Emerald Dream, there's very clearly areas, and in Zereth Mortis too, that have been ordered. So, yeah.
They seem to recycle their own water. It drips down from the leaves and down the trunk where it pools at the bottom and then is absorbed back into the tree. There's something
I don't know about that. That does not sound right.
I love about these trees. Whoever designed them just nailed it. The color.
They look like they're about to come to life, to be honest with you. They almost look like they have two legs and they're about to stand up and start walking around. I don't like that. It's very creepy.
The colors, the streams, the textures, it all looks great. Oh, and there's a white ball in the middle of the forest. Why? I doubt we'll ever know.
I actually could probably tell you potentially what that is.
The streams, the
so
textures,
if I'm not mistaken,
it all looks great.
In some of the old books, it was stated that inside of the Emerald Dream was this great golden dome called the Eye of Ysera, which we actually end up visiting in the Emerald Dream patch, but it's not a big golden dome, like they said. It was basically an area that was supposed to be obscured from vision and existed only inside of basically this dome. And only the Dreamer herself, and I think maybe like Cenarius was like allowed to go inside there. So this could have been a small conceptual like Eye of Ysera dome kind of thing. It could also be nothing to do with that at all. But it wouldn't surprise me if that's kind of what they were going for there. But yeah.
Oh, and there's a white ball in the middle of the forest. Why? I doubt we'll ever know. The last time I spoke about Ironforge Mountain and how you can sneak in and explore
that was cool.
a vast area.
I haven't seen that dream stuff before.
I was reminded by several people that
sick.
I'd missed a bit. Taking the same route, but then going back down the mountain on the other side, takes you to a strip of land halfway down the northern side of Ironforge Mountain that hosts a tiny dwarven village. There's a lovely big waterfall.
There's always a waterfall.
Into a tiny lake, a nice open field full of cows, a few dwarven homesteads carved into the rock, a barracks for the mountaineers, an incredibly informative stone signpost that points to this way, that way, and the other way, and this way leads to a mountain tunnel into nothingness.
Whoa.
This is one of the best pieces of scenery an Alliance player will see when flying about Azeroth, and it's no wonder that one of the first places a private server will typically try to make playable is this one. Huge swaths of Azeroth, despite being on the map, don't exist. All over the place are blank spots that were never filled in. Between Stranglethorn Vale and the Blasted Lands is one of the big ones. Look at this huge mountain range. But there is actually something in there.
And this is right next to Moshog Bounty, where some of the oldest dated material found on Azeroth can be found. From right there. This is also the place where you go and you kill Mazoth, who has a shiny Loa stick that makes him immortal. Lol. It's clearly a fucking allusion to N'Zoth and the fucking dagger that he's in. That's literally made him immortal. Not that he wasn't before, but we were outplayed essentially. So yeah, there's something that you find here that's dated to like 150,000 fucking years old or something like that. And if the carbon dating on it is accurate, that's pretty insane. So I'm actually really intrigued to find out what's in this range here, because this range right here is ancient.
A cave.
Thanks, Captain.
This cave, despite being lost in nameless mountains and being tiny, actually has a bit of significance in the game's history because of its association with this tiger. In the game's alpha, you could buy the Bengal tiger mount here, and once the game launched, this fact slowly turned into fiction and then into legend. There's nothing here now, but its story lingers on.
That's it?
There are other unmapped places like this, cracks between mountains and outcrops along coasts, but the biggest and most impressive one is Hyjal. On the other end of a sealed tunnel in Winterspring is a temperate forest valley, at the very height of the world. An empty paved road is our only guide, and it goes further and further up, taking us past amazing scenery. The place, though serene, has a disturbing quietness, its line of lone birds and dried lakes interrupted by pockets of the ashen devastation brought about by the events of Warcraft 3. There are also a handful of distractions. There's this destroyed structure, which now serves as a diving board off of the mountain, if you want it to. There's a really nice overlook hidden behind a wall halfway up, that now serves as my new desktop wallpaper. And not too far off the road at one point is a nice set of outdoor dining furniture the demons thankfully left unscathed. Hyjal's greatest secret, though, is at the end of the road. Nordrassil, the World Tree. This tree was once blessed by the dragons to protect the magical well beneath it, and, among other things, was responsible for the Night Elves' immortality. During Warcraft 3, the colossal demon Archimond climbed Nordrassil to steal its energy, but instead the tree's powers were sacrificed to strike a killing blow against him, and its success is clear to see today. It's really cool that such important landmarks to Warcraft's history are in the game, even if you do have to trespass to see them. After Nordrassil's magics had gone, the Night Elves grew themselves a new tree, Teldrassil, off of Kalimdor's northwestern coast. But if you were to keep sailing northwest of the continent, for a very, very long time, you'd find a place you're really not supposed to reach. GM Island. This island was a private area for Blizzard's game masters, and doesn't seem to have served any purpose other than to be a spawn point for their characters. But someone took the time to decorate this place with detail, so let's take a look. GM Island's surface is mostly occupied by this big mansion.
Never seen this.
But on the outside is a nice tropical atmosphere, with lots of big jungly trees, birds,
Imagine
and 10
dying to a bunch of
neatly
wisps.
dug graves, the significance of which only a handful of people have ever known. There is a small landing with a boat, and a dirt path leading from it all the way up to the mansion's open front entrance.
Illustrious.
First is the entry room with some barrels, benches, and weapon racks. And after that is a room with some stairs going upwards and a cellar to the right full of supplies. Up the stairs
so
is
weird.
a large open room with assorted furniture and nice paintings.
I wonder how, like, what the most amount of devs has ever been at this spot at once. Like, is this a thing where there's only ever been, like, probably not, but like 6 people here, like, at a time? Or has there been, like, 30 devs in this bitch at one point? Like, do they throw little fucking bangers at this place? Like, little in-house raves, bro? Is this where they plot their next, all their next expansions? They just gather around this candlelit table, drink mead, and fucking come up with ideas? Like, what? Like, well, how do you functionally use this place?
And a balcony which overlooks the endless ocean. And that's it, really. There was never, and likely will never,
That's what's on the other side of Azeroth, GM Island. We solved it.
be a reason for someone to come here. But still, it feels special.
I like this video a lot. I really like the hidden
The Dead
spaces
Mines
stuff.
has a
I think it's
secret.
really cool.
When you enter an instance, you are, in technical terms, entering a whole new map. And though all we see of these maps are the dungeons that Blizzard wanted us to see, these places were often also used for other purposes during the development of the game.
The most I've seen is like 20 plus, and that was during Legion launch where there was a ton of issues and we had to go in game to fix issues. What do you mean we? What are you talking about we had to go in? What do you mean you saw 20 motherfuckers there? What is that? What are you talking about? Have you seen the GM interrogation room before? No. Yeah, what do you mean we? What do you...
With the right amount of know-how, you can break out of the mines near the entrance and down onto this large open flat. And a short distance away is this hole.
What the fuck?
Whatever the developers sculpted here, I don't think we ever found in Azeroth. I've never seen these trees floating on huge crystals, or the hot moving rocks in the middle. And I don't think I even recognize these splintered rocks that form the
This
rim.
is how we get to the war within. We're flying into that bitch. We're gonna break through a barrier in an instance. We're flying through this bitch. There we go. The war within starting. That's how it opens.
Though these weird bubbles underneath the hole,
Game
look like
Masters.
the big bubble that's currently protecting Dalaran. A zone-shaped
What a
question
weird
we
thing.
never got the answer to is what's here? This rectangular area above the
There's
eastern
nothing there.
Plains.
Can't go there.
Stratholm, the nearby dungeon, arguably takes up quite a bit of that space, but that doesn't explain everything. And though we still, to this day, never quite figured out what this zone would have looked like, World of Warcraft's most dedicated swimmers have
I bet you that gets reworked when they redo Silvermoon and all that stuff. I mean, I'm sure that area is not going to be ignored. To be honest,
paddled all the way around the northern coast to find a way in.
I would like
Instead,
them to hit
We
it.
found Quel'Thalas.
Be
Well,
nice.
it's called Quel'Thalas at least, but it's just an isolated and abandoned elven outpost.
This
in
I
the
have
middle of
seen.
Nowhere.
I have
The
seen this.
real Elven Kingdom is a short distance this way, though it was added as a separate instance and so can't be seen from the rest of the Eastern Kingdoms. When considering that this tiny settlement was here well before
Wonder
the
why they
Burning
did
Crusade
that.
expansion, this place
Did
is
they ever explain why the TBC areas are instanced like that? I've literally sent Pyro to my W2 before because he wanted proof I worked for them. Bro, it's been too long. I don't even remember that. I mean, I vaguely remember that, but that's been so long ago. Damn. That's fucked up. I asked you, I really said that? That's fucked up. It's because they exist in the Outland map files? Yeah.
It's an interesting look into
Weird.
what could have been, and its forlorn tower set against dusk gives off a beautiful, Tolkien-esque atmosphere that reminds me of this Thomas Cole painting.
Yeah, that's nice.
Since we're in the area, I want to mention what's outside the inside of Naxxramas. And by that, I mean if you were to enter the instance and then break out of the Flying Fortress, what you'd see. And I mean by that, the extra stuff Blizzard had placed on the other side of this pane of glass. Out the window at the entrance to the raid, we can see the Plague Wood down below us, right where it should be. But down there is actually a different version of the Eastern Plaguelands.
The Plaguelands are basically just Maldraxxus pulled into reality. And I don't think I've ever said that until like just now. But that's what this is. The Plaguelands is basically just Maldraxxus pulled into reality. I mean, the giant mushrooms and everything. The bones and shit sticking out of the ground. And it always looked like this weird shit, bro. Even before. It's so weird.
Light's Hope Chapel is there. The Noxious Glade is there. Stratholm is there too. But
Stratholm?
where the northeast of the zone is supposed to be is this instead. Up here between mountains is a huge wintry area with plenty of trees, and with what looks like an anchored Naxxramas at its centre, or at least Kel'Thuzad's part of it.
What the fuck?
I once heard from somewhere that this was a very early rendition of Northrend, and that could be true, but this was all present during vanilla.
Bro. This is in Kel'Thuzad's room? Bro, look at these horns. What the fucking fuck? These are straight off the Primus's head, bro. What's good? They're also serpents, aren't they? It's like a two-headed serpent. That's weird. Huh. They aren't horns? No, I know. They're snakes. They're spines. But I know that they're not horns, but they're shaped and they look like the horns. You can see the heads at the top. Is my fucking mic working?
Could this place once have been the planned terrain for the blank spot on our map? We may never know. But I
think
for
we had a
one
Warlock
do
TM that looks
choose to
similar to
believe
that.
that these are the fabled Northern
Yeah, we did
Plague.
have like a Serpent Helm Warlock set, I think. It's like a purple and green one?
Because, to me, this cold and quiet valley feels like finality. It feels like the calm before the storm, the last stop between vanilla World of Warcraft's final battle. Or maybe that's just me. When playing an earlier version of World of Warcraft, you may have at some point noticed that if you highlight Silithus
Maybe
with
I'm
your
thinking of
mouse,
mages.
it will light up like all the other zones, but only the top half of it. The assumption I'd always made is that the lower half is Ahn'Qiraj, where the two raids take place. But they're not half the size of Silithus, are they? So what is back there? Well, this. An entire zone. A long route completes a circuit around this entire desert, with the familiar ancient markers along the road to Silithus along the way. In the centre is what I imagine could have been a dried up lake, and around the edges are lots of interesting ruined, sand-covered structures.
I love these upside down crescent moons in these scarabs that definitely have nothing to do with Elune.
Some of them are impressive.
Yeah, the Queen of the Nerubians having a fucking upside down crescent moon on her forehead has nothing to do with Elune either.
And others are quite familiar for those who've raided here before. It seems that once upon a time, this is what Ahn'Qiraj would have looked like.
With a lake. Is this like another natural wellspring kind of situation? It's not on a high peak, but...
But instead, all it's good for now are PvP tournaments. This next place I would never have known about if it wasn't for several commenters on the last Places Between Places. And I'm grateful.
Kinda did,
and
Carvian.
it's so close, yet so far from where we just were at Ahn'Qiraj. A small Tauran homestead on Kalimdor's southwestern coastline. This is essentially a horde equivalent to the dwarven homestead I displayed last time.
This is where Thrall
But it
was
is
hiding.
so
He
much
wasn't
more
actually really on Draenor, he was just hiding out here.
More annoying to get to. And
That's a hole filled with water left behind after you ripped out a tree from there. Yo, stop it.
an extra secret. So, as for how to get there, you need to start at one of two locations. The Isle of Dread, just off of the coast of Feralus, or from Land's End Beach in far southern Tanaris.
This guy gets
And these
sick
places are
fucking footage,
incredibly
dude.
remote in and of themselves.
This flying
making
footage that
this
he's got
maybe
is
the
sick.
furthest off the beaten path
Katarin,
I've
thank you
ever
very
been.
much for the
As
8-month
for the
resub.
place itself, it's a humble farm with a fenced field, a tent with some troughs for livestock, some bales of produce, a small mill, some small fishing boats with cages, and a nicely decorated home. Despite looking quite lived in, the place is deserted, and the livestock are gone without a trace. Even the milled flour has been left, so whoever lived here seems to have left suddenly and never returned. So, it's ours now, a perfect home for any Tauran retiree. And as for the extra secrets I mentioned earlier, not far from this place are more thick trees along the same otherwise featureless coastline. And on this other
This
patch
I've
of
seen.
land is a
You can
cave.
find this.
It runs deep, and a damp green fog permeates each chamber and passage. There is no life in this cave, not even the standard fungi or the sound
Maybe
of
it's
bats.
the updated
There are
version that I've
only
seen.
bones. I'd like to think of this place
I'm pretty sure that in the live game there's a little cave south of AQ as well that's got a dragon in it, like sleeping. I think it's like it's like an ode to someone who passed away or something like that, I'm pretty sure. We could have footage like that as well, but Pyro refuses to find money in the budget to let me get a drone.
as a lovely retreat for players to head to after a long night of raiding, but it's so far away from civilization, I wouldn't recommend the trip. But perhaps it's best served as a place to retire a character, or to take a long break. Thank you for watching. If you
Good
liked
video.
this video, please leave it a like.
That's a great video.
If you liked me, please subscribe. And if you have anything to say, please leave a comment.
It's a great
I read
video.
all of them.